Name the player under the most pressure this season for the 49ers other than Trey Lance, because it's always the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple. I think it's a close heat. I would say Javon Kinlaw, because he's replacing a very, very good player who played hurt and was, key to their defense in DJ Jones. So I think Kinlaw, absolutely, where he was drafted, the trade involving Buckner, the fact that Kinlaw has not done it to this point. Kinlaw's got the talent, but he also has the pressure. Everybody knows he's been somewhat disappointing. He's got to fire. And I'll say the other one is a little bit more of a sleeper pick, but I'm going to say George Kittle. George Kittle needs to stay healthy.
Yep.
Look at the backup tight ends. You got Charlie Warner. He's a try-hard blocker. You got Ross Dwelly. He's a really nice, sticky hands receiver. I love Jordan Matthews. I think he's going to be a sleeper in this camp. He's 236 pounds, and he still makes plays down the field. He's bulked up his upper body. He still has maintained some speed. I think he could be the movement tight end piece for them. But Kittle, there's a huge drop-off in run blocking, in pass blocking, there's a swagger that George Kittle brings to the Niners. They go as he goes in a lot of ways, and he's been hurt. He's missed time. He's had a hard time staying on the field, and it's partially because of how tough he is and how hard he plays. To me, those two guys, Kinlaw on the D, George Kittle on the O. Those guys have to perform.
I'm not arguing. I like those two names. To me, the type of pressure, though, that those two guys are under are different. Kittle, the type of pressure you describe is like pride. I've made a lot of money. I've made my reputation, but people are kind of writing me off, or I want to prove that I'm not over the hill, or I want to prove that I'm still in my prime, all of that. That's a good kind of pressure. Kinlaw is more of like almost financial. Are they going to pick up my fifth-year option? That's the toughest. That's a tough one for a young guy. First couple of years didn't go my way, and it wasn't even my fault. I was hurt. But now, no more excuses. I can't get hurt this year. If I miss 8 games with a knee injury, they'll use it against me. All of this matters. And if it doesn't go my way, I'm not going to get – that fifth-year option is a lot of guaranteed money. It's a big deal for any person's life. And for him, I think he doesn't. Do you know if they're going to pick up the fifth-year option? I think it depends. I don't think they know.
I would assume they're going to, because he's that kind of a talent. I think he's got a huge amount of talent. I think Kinlaw's got an ability to be a Pro Bowl caliber player. But as you said, it's go time for him, and he knows it. And it's partially because of him, but it's also partially because of the rest of the structure of that D line. Armstead's terrific, but what is Mo Hurst? What is Kerry Hyder Jr. at this point? How good is Ridgeway? Can Givens anchor against the run? Is Kalia Davis healthy? Even they just they just signed this kid Kemdiche, who was very, very good at Ole Miss, but he's floated around a little bit. They don't have a DJ Jones other than Kinlaw, a 2-gapper who can take on a double team, strong enough to split it, really could be a game, a game wrecker and an A-gap guy who just shuts it all down inside. Kinlaw's got the ability to do it. He's got to do it, though. He's got to do it. DJ did it. Now Kinlaw's got to do it. And when the Niners didn't have DJ in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, it cost them dearly. So, not having this run stuffer inside is absolutely a huge element of the 49ers being a dominant defense. I'm quietly a little concerned that the D-line may take a backslide this year if Drake Jackson's not ready to go and Kinlaw's not healthy and there's an injury or two up front. I think the secondary is going to be way better than it's been in the past, but if you told me the D-line was going to be worse than what it was last year, I wouldn't disagree with you. I think that's a major point, and Kinlaw is probably the biggest individual in that whole discussion.
Year 3 for former first-round picks is just very stressful in general. So not just Javon, but Brandon too. Brandon Ayuk. He's had a good career so far, but it didn't start off great last season. And that fifth-year option for wide receivers is expensive. The Niners are spending a lot of money on Kittle and probably Debo too. I wonder if they'll have the budget for Ayuk too, especially if he doesn't have a 1,000-yard season this year. So I think there's some pressure for him to perform as well. If he doesn't, he can get traded. I have no idea if the Niners see him in their future plans. Don't know.
So yeah, I mean, they're almost, all options are on the table with that one.
Yeah. Big Flav in the house says Trent Williams not under any pressure job-wise, but if he isn't good this year, this could be the worst offensive line ever, and Trey might perish. Well, sure. I suppose.
Flav.
But, wow, that was pretty dark. Didn't see that one coming.
He's going to die out there?
I don't know. I mean, I saw him in 2020 be really good, and the Niners lead the league in quarterback hits allowed, so it's bigger than him. It's only so much one offensive lineman can do.
Yeah.
AC Gaiman says Jimmy and Castle the same quarterback. Thanks for earlier. Okay, not when you look at like completion percentage, but when you look at their win-loss records and the fact that they were both backups for Brady and their touchdown interception ratio, they had a very similar 3-year run. Castle never did anything in the playoffs, but yeah, there are similarities. I'd say Jimmy probably has a more Castle's a pretty good-looking guy too. I don't know. Hard to say.
I would say Jimmy's a little bit better quarterback overall, but Jimmy also, I think, has played more, and I think the league's more aware of Jimmy's weaknesses, as time goes on. So, I think ultimately they're probably very similar, but if you had to rank them, definitely on the career accomplishments, I put Jimmy over Castle.
I'd love this. Castle, what did he play for? Todd Haley? Who was the coordinator in Kansas City 10 years ago? One thing people don't talk about with Jimmy.
Might have been Jimmy Ray.
It might have been Jimmy Ray. What people don't talk about with Jimmy is he's gotten to play for Josh McDaniels and Kyle Shanahan. That's it. He's blessed. I'd love to see what happens if he had to go play for some stiff the way that Alex Smith had to over and over and over again. And even Colin Kaepernick did to an extent. Like, Jimmy's been blessed with the coaches he's gotten to play for. I'm curious to see where he ends up next. And if Don Yee lets him play for someone who's not so good, how that'll go.
Does he want to play or does he want to sit? I mean, there might be better situations as far as coaching and successful teams where he's sitting. Would he rather sit or would he rather just play and maybe he's playing on the Texans?
Well, if he sits, then his stock really depends on Trey. Because if Trey plays poorly and Jimmy doesn't do anything, he could be like, see, I was the reason that team won. But if Trey wins, there's nothing Jimmy can say anymore. He's like, I guess I really wasn't important to that team, and my numbers weren't that good either. So I'll take whatever. I don't know. I think that's dangerous if he sits out here. You really.
I'm really eager to see where he goes too, because there's just so many, so many variables. How much did Shanahan make Jimmy, or did the 49er skills around him, the run game, the defense, and all the surrounding cast make Jimmy look better than he was, or is Jimmy a real talent and we didn't appreciate him enough here?
Put Jimmy with Chris and watch him fold. Yeah, or Chip Kelly.
Yeah, Chip Kelly. Let's call plays super fast.
Let's go 3 and out faster than anyone else.
Yeah.
Flav says McGlinchey too. Yeah, McGlinchey probably. I mean, he was a solid starting right tackle who probably had a 10-year career waiting for him. But this injury is serious. He has to prove that he's going to be the same decent enough offensive tackle that he was before. I can see it.
McGlinchey, the news that I heard, Grant, was that he was saying this last week that the injury, it wasn't the muscle, it was a tendon injury. It wasn't that the muscle got pulled off the bone and kind of crawled up his leg and they didn't have to reattach it, and there wasn't. So maybe they caught a break there on that, because that would have made that injury more career threatening from what I'm understanding. And I'm not a doctor, but it sounded like it could have been, let's say, on a scale of 1 to 10, a 10 as far as severity, and then maybe it's more like a 6. So, that would be good news, because he's is 9th pick in the draft. Okay. Whatever, but he's a right tackle, but he still is considerably better than whoever they're going to put in there if they went with School or whatever. So they need McGlinchey back badly.
Good. I'm rooting for him. In your interview this week with Steve, when he was talking about Trey being like painfully earnest, that's McGlinchey. McGlinchey is painfully earnest. He seems like a really nice guy. Almost too nice, maybe not too nice. Anyway, I'm rooting for him. He's a super nice guy. Carmelo says Jimmy G on even years, he gets injured 2016, 2018, 2020. That's why Trey the starter. Yeah, just go back and forth. Just have Jimmy. No, but even in the odd years, well, I don't know. Odd year Jimmy.
I mean, I think that, you know what? I kind of disagree on this. Now, Carmelo, no offense, because I think you're hitting a good point, but I think it's much easier to criticize a player getting hurt because you're on way more solid ground. He either is or isn't in there. When he's not in there, there's no debate about it. But I think the Niners, if you really gave them truth serum and you talked to John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, that their concerns or things that they didn't like about Garoppolo go far beyond just the availability factor.
Oh, no question about it.